Do you ever feel like summer just happens to you? Like the schedules are messy, the kids are out of school, vacations and last minute cancellations fill your books. And before you know it, you're walking into September already tired. But what if September didn't have to feel like catch up? What if, you could use this season the same way your kids use back to school season? Get you a new backpack, sharpen your pencils, get some fresh goals. September can be your leadership reset, a time to create the routines that will carry your team and your business through the most profitable part of the year.
So good. And so that's what today's episode is about. It's resetting your leadership routine as a salon owner with 3 habits that will make your team thrive, your business grow, and your year finish strong. So let me help you picture this. I want you to picture it's the first day of school. Your kids have their new backpacks, their fresh shoes. And I thought earlier you said gold. You said goals, Lindsay. So I was like, oh, kids got the new gold. Okay, the fresh kicks. I got it. So you picture this, and they're walking into school and that mix of nerves and excitement, right?
Mhm.
Now imagine this. If your team walked into the salon with that same energy, fresh, focused, ready to grow, wouldn't that be amazing? But here's the thing. They won't unless you reset first. See,
Mm.
leadership energy sets the tone. You are the thermostat, not the thermometer. And so today
Mm.
we're going to share 3 leadership reset habits that will completely shift the way your team sees you and themselves this fall.
Yes, this is going to be incredible. So let's dive right into habit number one. And this is all about clarity habits. So this is where you want to set clear goals and expectations for your team because your team cannot rise under unclear standards. And so September is really the perfect time to re-clarify. What are your non-negotiables? What are this quarter's priorities? Where are you taking them as a leader? And so when
Mhm.
you think about this, a great weekly reset routine would be, we could call this your Sunday CEO reset. Just like the kids pack their bags and get ready for Monday, leaders should reset weekly. Review the calendar, check numbers, clarify who needs coaching right away. And you might be thinking, but Lindsay, I don't have time for this. But the
Mhm.
truth is, you don't have time not to, because clarity actually saves you time where confusion wastes it, you know? And it just makes me think of like, I've had team members come to me in the past, and saying like, "Hey, it's too hard to hit these numbers." And it's truly because what I've uncovered is like they're confused about how to get there. And
Mhm.
so, I recently just had a teammate, shout out to Haley, who got a level jump. And, I think Haley at one point, had somebody who was really feeding her the belief that those numbers were impossible to hit. And we connected and really got some clarity around like, okay, here's what it would look like daily. And she was like, wow, this is actually way easier than I even thought possible. But the truth was there was confusion there. And there was also somebody, feeding that fear and misinformation and that belief that wasn't even true. And so when we got that clarity, man, she was able to just skyrocket and hit that level jump. But it also is, as a leader, if you aren't paying attention to what the numbers are telling you inside of the salon, because numbers, they're just telling a story about the conversations that are happening. So if
Mhm.
somebody's retail numbers are low, it has nothing to do with anything other than they are not having the right conversations around it.
Mhm.
So it's just a beautiful gift. Hey, what do we need to talk about together? How can we support you? How can, do some role playing with that team member so that they really can thrive and have clarity around what those goals are.
So good. Lindsay, that reminds me of, I just had a coaching session with somebody on our team.
Mhm.
And we want to project out for the rest of the year. So I think she was like 54,000. I said, hey, you're on track to do like finish the year at like 81,000. I said, but if we did X, Y, and Z and we put these little things into place and we created this plan together, like you would definitely finish at about $95,000 for the year. She hasn't even
Mhm.
been with our company for 4 years. And
Wow.
so, like, isn't that so huge? Like, if we could have just said, hey, maybe you should work on pre-booking again, but like, hey, well, let's finish strong. Let's
Mhm.
really look at the numbers, where we're at, and what direction can we take to really push us to almost that impossible goal, like something that they don't even see possible. But as their coach or as your leadership team, it helps them to really see a new opportunity. And you could tell her eyes were just like, wow, that's truly possible for me. And she was so enrolled. So now she has a plan. So by the
Mhm.
time the end of the year comes along, she's just not at $81,000, which is incredible just for being with our company less than 4 years, but she's at $95,000. And last year she finished at $51,000. So she's already made more money this year than
Mhm.
she did the entire last year. And we still have 4 months left. So I think it is like when you're doing growth sessions and things like that, it really is a huge opportunity to extract those numbers and help your team reset as well. So I
Mhm.
just thought that was an incredible story from yesterday that I wanted to share. And so, yeah.
That that is huge, Jen, and what a
Mhm.
win for her to be able to see that, and actually stick around to the end of this podcast because we have a really cool tool that we are gonna gift you, as being an awesome listener of the podcast. So, next up, we have habit number 2. This is where you create connection habits. So this is where you think about that daily huddle, your salon celebrations, this is where your team energy truly starts to mirror yours. So if you start scattered, they will too. But if you start focused, they will align. And so even just like the story that Jen just told, or the story that I told about Haley, if we would have just met them where they were at scattered and not had a plan, they wouldn't have had somebody giving them a North Star of what's truly possible. And, I think something that really goes hand in hand with this is to celebrate those small wins. Teach people around you to spot a win. What is a win? A lot of times they think, they have to be buying a brand new car or a new house or taking a lavish vacation or something for it to be a win. But a win is truly like, hey, if you either haven't been having pre-book conversations at all, or maybe they've been misaligned, or they've been about you and not about the client, and you change that. And even if it's just one time you do it and it works, celebrate that, because you want to create more of that energy around, hey, I'm doing this and these are the results that I'm getting. Because what we know is like, hey, when the systems that we have put into place are being utilized properly, everybody wins more often. They win
Mhm.
almost every time. And so when you're able to really celebrate that, gosh, it changes everything, because some leaders think if I celebrate too much, they won't push harder. But the reality is, people repeat the behaviors that get noticed. So if you want sales, celebrate sales. If you want pre-books, celebrate pre-books, because that is how you're really going to start to paint that bigger picture.
So good. Lindsay, I remember being at your salon retreat last week, and I asked just a question like, how many have been in the industry for um, 15 years? And if you raised their hands, how many have been in the industry for 10 years? I think maybe one or two raised their hand. And you have a team of what? Is there 25? I don't even know. It was
Yeah.
25. Yeah, about
Yep.
25, 30. Yeah.
Yep.
And then I said 5 years, a few more. And then I said, how many of you have been in the industry like less than 3 years or even like 1 year? And it
Mhm.
was so incredible. Most of the hands went up then. And I was
Mhm.
like, wow, because you guys have grown by leaps and bounds. And so,
Mhm.
like, that is a testament to, like, when you truly celebrate that, and I wanted them to pat themselves on the back too, because that's a true testament to them using the systems, the company having the systems.
Mhm.
Like, you could just tell the whole entire energy of the space shifted because they're like, "Man, we are really doing some incredible things." I mean,
Mhm.
we're doing more than some people have been in this industry for 10 and 15, 20 years are not even doing. And so I love that idea of, like, pulling out and extracting those wins because, when you're new, they're like, "Oh, I'm just new, just level
Mhm.
1." No, you're amazing. You're incredible. Let's find those wins. Let's celebrate them together because, like, I bet if you called your friends and asked that you went to hair school with what they're doing, I promise you they're not doing $5 and $6,000 on month one on the salon floor. I
Yeah,
promise you. And
no.
so it was a really testament to, celebrating those wins at your monthly celebrations and,
Mhm.
how they truly do elevate everyone.
Yeah, and shout out to you. You did an incredible job and lots of great wins that day. And I think that really ties into habit number 3, which is where you create those cash flow habits. As a salon owner, that's one of the most important things. And so what you can do here is track par. And if there's one reset that you make this September, let it be this. Please hear this. This is a writer downer for sure. Track PAR. PAR stands for pre-books, average ticket, and retail units per guest. And these are the 3 drivers that every salon business should really be tracking and utilizing to create the most sustainable and profitable salon possible. And pre-books, we know that those equal stability because really truly what we're trying to drive here is retention. But if you say,
Mhm.
hey, we got to retain all the guests, that is something that we talk a lot about, when somebody starts in the master's program, like, hey, the world is going to tell you that social media is the most important thing. That might be for them, but what's actually the most important thing is retention. And the way that we're able to check retention daily is to see what our pre-books are at, because if you're setting things up properly, if you're creating that customized plan and creating a bigger, brighter future for them, they're going to want to come back and they're going to pre-book, and then that's going to be the number that tells us about stability. The second
Mm.
number would be that average ticket, and that is truly where profitability and their income explodes. If you start to track this and watch this grow, wow, incredible things happen. And that next one is the retail units. And this, really creates that client trust. This also creates a lot of consistency. When people are taking home those products, like what we know is nobody knows the difference between a good haircut and a great haircut, but they do know the difference between if they feel like they're great at taking care of their hair at home and if their daily styling is happening. And that's when they're going to say, I got a great haircut. It actually has nothing to do with the haircut itself, but it has to do with their confidence. When it comes to styling, are they using the right tools to aid in that styling? Are they using, do they know how to recreate their look at home? And so when we're having proper conversations, retail units for guests, they just skyrocket.
So good. And listen, if you're not showing your team these numbers daily, weekly, monthly, then they don't know how they are winning.
Mhm.
When and you think about it from a salon owner, this is not slap the numbers on the in the connection room and be like, these are your numbers. Like, this is a huge opportunity to really set up the context correctly. And what I mean by that is help them understand the why behind this. And
Mhm.
so, saying things like, hey, we're going to share some numbers. And some of you right now are thinking, oh my gosh, some of you are going to want to run out the door, and some of you are going to
Mhm.
be really excited, and that's okay. And here's the why behind why we're doing this. I want you to put on the glasses of, like, wow, this is where I'm at. But look at Lindsay. She's really
Mhm.
winning at average ticket. I need to connect with Lindsay and see what she's doing so that I can elevate my average ticket. And that
Mhm.
conversation looks so much different between just slapping some numbers on in the connection room and hoping that they understand. If you think about it, like a football team, it's football season now. Like, they understand the plays that they're running every single day. But if
Mhm.
half the players didn't understand the play they were going to run for that single game, it would be game confusion, be confused, right? It's the same
Mhm.
thing with our team. When we're all united and connected together, we can understand how to keep that momentum and move forward faster. So, sharing numbers can be a really beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing,
Mhm.
especially if the intention is pure and the intention is to move the momentum forward.
Mm. I love that. Jen, it really just makes me think about the difference between power and force.
Mhm.
When you are trying to force somebody to do something, well, gosh, you're going to have to be the driver of them for the rest of your life. But when you're, you stepping into your leadership from a place of power, it's like helping them see their blind spots, helping them understand the why, like you just talked about, removing that game confusion, even that you just mentioned. And so it's like, imagine sending your kids to school, but never showing them their grades until the end of the year. That would be crazy, right?
Mhm.
But that's what salon owners do all the time when they don't share par numbers, because some salon owners really fear that sharing numbers will intimidate or overwhelm somebody. But the reality is, when you set it up like Jen just talked about, and when people see the scoreboard, they play harder. And when they don't have that to look forward to, when they're not driving, they're drifting. And when people are drifting, that's a scary, scary place to be at.
Absolutely. And you're thinking, what the heck does par even mean?
Mm.
And so if you're a golf fan, you probably know where par comes from. Like I have some golf outfits, but I know par probably means what? Hole in one. Is that correct? It's like when
So
you have a
par is
par.
like so if par on a course would be like, this is like a par three course. So like
Yeah.
they're saying it's going to take an average of 3 strokes to make it in there. And so you're trying to go below par when you come to par. So it's like basically just saying, like, here's the average of what happens at this hole. And so basically what you're going to do is you're going to tell then you're going to set some par goals. And it's going to be a little bit different than golf, because you're not going to want to go under those numbers. You're actually going to want to go above those numbers, so set that up with your team. But then you would just say, hey, like, here's par for the course, and
Mhm.
so par, for rebooking, maybe at your salon you're just starting out, so maybe you got to get to 40%, maybe you got to get to
Mhm.
50%, maybe you're getting to 60%. Eventually, of course, you want to get to 80%. But that can be, you want to set those goals. You want to set, like, okay, here's average, and then you want to help them see what's truly possible. And so some people will be above par, some people will be below par. And so instead of it being like golf where you want to be below, this you want to be above, you want to be winning, in order to really take home the prize, which is creating that amazing guest experience. Because when people are seeing the value in what you're offering, they're buying more things, they're reserving more future appointments, they're enjoying more services, all of those great things.
I love that. You know what I told my team? Because I said, be like Tiger Woods. Par for us means hole in one. We want to just think about that hole in one. When you get that hole in one, man, everybody wins. And so,
Mm.
like, if you're thinking, like, where did those par numbers, like, where does par stand for or come? Lindsay explained that beautifully so that you can kind of set your team up with that too. But really just focusing on, hey, this is the why behind why we're doing this and how we can move forward faster.
Mhm.
So love that. All right. So here's your challenge for the week, salon owners. Like pick one clarity habit. What's it going to be? Like thinking about where do you need to get clear on? Is
Mhm.
it like Lindsay mentioned earlier? Is that Sunday reset? So what did you call it? The Sunday salon reset?
CEO reset,
Is it
yeah.
a salon CEO reset? So, like, picking your day, what's that going to look like? Pick
Mhm.
one connection habit. Think about your huddles, your grow sessions. Just pick one connection point. That's just start there, and
Mhm.
then pick one cash flow habit. Like even
Mhm.
just starting with par in a huddle, looking at it from the point of a team, or just getting the whiteboard ready so that you can start putting par in the back room. So if you
Mhm.
do this consistently for the next 30 days, this will be your leadership reset.
Mhm.
And if you do this, think about it. By the time the holidays hit, your salon will be thriving instead of just surviving.
Man, what a great place to be at. And, I know we just talked all about par numbers, and you might be wondering, how do I show my team their earning potential in a way that excites them and not overwhelms them? And that's why we created our income earning potential calculator. And this tool lets your team see exactly how their par numbers translate into income growth for them personally. So you can get it free right now. Just text the word income, that's INCOME, to 469-283-5590. And I'll send you a copy so that you can start using it with your team this week. I think what was really cool too is I overheard a couple of teammates, Jen, I shared this with you already about, they were talking about, oh my gosh, one of them, when they just got their promotion, they were like, oh, it's going to be wild to see. We always make sure we use this calculator in our yearly growth session, but occasionally we break it out throughout the year. So I'm going to connect with this stylist and pop those numbers in the calculator so that she can see, hey, with this new promotion, she's, experienced some amazing growth. It was really amazing to hear her say, I got my biggest paycheck yet. It's bigger than my parents' paychecks, and
Mm.
just so exciting. Like that's just a really, it's not about competition, but it's like, hey, like probably didn't even think that was possible as a
Mhm.
career hairstylist, and getting to have something incredible and meaningful, and having a career that's transforming people's lives and transforming their own life through their income. I'm telling you, when you start using this calculator, this tool, don't sleep on texting the word income right away, because just hearing how our teams light up when we use it is like, wow, this was
Mhm.
one of the greatest creations ever.
Yeah. So remember, September isn't just back to school, it's back to leadership. It's your chance to reset, refocus, and re energize. And just remember that clarity creates direction, connection creates culture, and cash flow creates freedom. You don't have to wait from January. Isn't that so exciting that your new year starts now? And we'll see you next week on the Salon Success Secrets podcast.